Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm joined by the legendary Crypto Kermit, also CEO of Unfungible, thought leader, rising influencer in the Web3 space. If you guys haven't checked out Crypto Kermit on Twitter, you should absolutely do banger threads. And one thing that's very interesting, Crypto Kermit, is that over the last month and a half-ish, we've been starting to see a lot more of the clients we advise on come to us and ask us more and more questions about the ordinal space. Does my project fit on there? Should I consider launching on ordinals? What would be the steps to successfully launching on ordinals? And one of the most common questions we get as well as concern is, cool, ordinals is hot right now, but I myself as a founder, I'm trying to build a long-term brand, long-term projects, and I'm not too sure about the longevity of the ordinal space. So in today's video, what we're going to be covering is, are ordinals here to stay? What are some of the metrics we should be looking at? Because that is a theoretical question. There is no yes or no response to that. But what we can do is look at the certain metrics that show us the where the space is heading. So let's get into the numbers. I know a lot of potential founders that are watching these videos also are asking themselves the same question. So let's dive into the numbers, man.
Sure, I'd love to do that. So right here, what I've prepared for us are a couple of statistics we can look at in terms of where ordinals currently are, where they've been, where they currently are, what's their expected trajectory, basically. So right now, what's very interesting is in such a short amount of time, in such a short time frame, we've seen Bitcoin rise up the charts to becoming the second biggest blockchain in terms of NFT the past month, just behind Ethereum, who has done over $400 million in sales over the past 30 days, whereas Bitcoin has made around 122 million. So around a fourth or a third of Ethereum's volume, yet very much ahead of other competitors like Solana, Mythos, Polygon, Immutable X, so on and so forth. So you can see how much ahead Bitcoin has come in such a short amount of time. You can also see, how many of those at least top 15 collections are on ordinals. So you have uncategorized ordinals at number 4. Uncategorized ordinals, it's not a specific collection. It's basically any ordinal that isn't attributed to a specific collection. Maybe it's in a certain inscription number, a certain rare ordinal. There's OXBT, who has gone absolutely massive with its release. There's Bitcoin Frogs, who has cemented itself as some sort of a blue chip in the ordinal space. Space Pepes, Ordi, along with so many others in that top 100 collection list. The one thing that is also very worth noting is that, while this is very impressive, we are currently seeing a retracement, a big retracement in terms of sales volume. So if you compare this month to the previous month, volume is down by 15% on ordinals, which is about the same on Ethereum as well. What's interesting is that the number of buyers has 5 to 6x'd over the past month. What does this mean? This means more people are coming in, but their spending power, or how much they're spending on average, is a lot lower. This leads me to sort of speculate that maybe a lot of Solana people, a lot of Gen X, a lot of younger folk are starting to onboard the ordinal space. People with less spending power are starting to onboard, because the numbers are growing in terms of users, but the volume has decreased a lot. Well, I can even share this chart. You can see the number of inscriptions has gone down, severely. The volume has also decreased sharply from what it was back in May. If you look at even the number of transactions,
can you show us what
users.
Can you explain what we're looking at here?
So this right here is the volume on ordinals daily. We can see that May 8th had the biggest or the most volume that the market saw. And then we had a couple of good days, and then things started taking a nosedive. And we can see today the volume compared to May is not even, near to maybe even a tenth of what it was in the beginning, especially in the beginning of May. So volume is falling down. It's going down drastically. My question would be then, how long is this a temporary retracement? Are we going to see ordinals climb back up to previous levels, or is this, where things start falling off, where the fad starts passing? So I do have a couple of thoughts on that, which we can discuss. Over the past couple of weeks, we've seen very big, very influential people actually announce that they're launching collections on Ordinal. We've seen Elena announce that she's launching an exclusive one-on-one small supply of on-chain art on Rare Satoshis. For anyone that doesn't know, Rare Satoshis are basically Satoshis with a historical significance. For example, there's a collection being made on the Satoshis of the... do you remember the guy who ordered the pizza with Bitcoin, with 10,000 Bitcoins?
Oh, you can do that. You can choose which Bitcoins to inscribe on.
You can choose exactly which ordinals you
Wow.
want to inscribe on. So what someone did is he took 10,000 of those ordinals that were in the 10,000 Bitcoin that the guy spent on pizza, and he's inscribing a collection of 10,000 Teenage Mutant Turtles.
Incredible. Incredible. Very smart.
Yeah, because, Teenage Mutant Turtles.
Of course, pizza.
Exactly. So you could do a lot of cool things. Rare Satoshis on their own, I think, at the time of recording are selling for, just for you to buy them, not to inscribe anything on them, for $1,500 US. I mean, we've seen the relevance of ordinals on social media as well. I mean, BitGod is still at it. He's still, very, very influential in the space. We haven't seen ordinals people really lose relevance despite volume going down, despite, participation falling down. We've seen a lot of attention still be on the market. And what's also interesting, we're seeing a lot of innovation. So just a couple of days ago, before filming this, Recursive Punks came out. Right now they're doing very well in terms of volume, in terms of price action. What they are, this is a very brand new technology called recursive ordinals, and what it is you as a founder, instead of having to inscribe every single image on its own on a Satoshi, and that having very high costs, what you could do instead is inscribe a single trait on a single Satoshi, and then in the line code, what you're actually inscribing is a code, a text that basically calls all of those different traits. So all of a sudden, this takes the cost of you minting on ordinals, creating a collection on ordinals, from having to spend $100, $50, minimum a pop per single NFT, to now all of a sudden you can spend $2, $3, $5 per NFT instead, which is a huge, huge difference in cost basis for launch.
It's incredible. That's something the space is moving at light speed. Only 1 week ago did I publish a case study about Bitcoin Ordinals, and back then that technology didn't exist. You needed to pay anywhere between $10 to $300, $400 to inscribe an NFT. So the $1 million question, Kermit, for you is: are Bitcoin Ordinals here to stay? What are your thoughts on this question?
It's a very interesting question. For me, thinking about ordinals, and if I ever asked myself the question, would I launch on ordinals? If I wanted to launch a collection, would I launch it right now on ordinals? Personally, I wouldn't. And the reason being is, you go back to the creator of ordinals himself. He's mentioned that the reason he's created ordinals in the first place was for fun. It was for people to get accustomed to Bitcoin's technology, what Bitcoin could do, Bitcoin's innovation. It was a fun way to bring people and interact with Bitcoin, the Bitcoin network, one of the strongest blockchains, if not the strongest blockchain there is. But for me, the real question is, can Bitcoin ever become the NFT blockchain? I think the best way to answer this is by looking at history. And this is, for example, a chart that I've made. There's a reason why Bitcoin has lost relevance in the NFT space 5 years ago, right? So everything started with Bitcoin. Obviously, Bitcoin was the first chain. It was the holiness, the holy blockchain. We had colored coins, then we had quantum, we had eggs, we had Spells of Genesis, which was, one of the first games trying to utilize blockchain and Bitcoin technology specifically. But then you start to see, right, the CryptoPunks in 2017, you start to see CryptoKitties start all to launch on Ethereum instead. Why? Because of the cost basis on Bitcoin that you had on Bitcoin. So at the time, it used to cost, obviously a lot more to launch on Bitcoin versus Ethereum, where Ethereum is made for you to create smart contracts on it. What people are doing with Bitcoin now is they're trying to, maneuver around the technology that isn't meant for you to create something of the sort with. So even Satoshi Nakamoto, when asked in 2010 if Bitcoin should ever have a non-financial purpose, he said absolutely not. Bitcoin is purely a means of a peer to send money to his other peer.
And what do you tell people that come in and tell you, yes, but now we're seeing a lot of innovations on Bitcoin. We're talking about smart contract, layer 2s, XYZ. What would you tell to those people?
Right. It's a very valid point. But if you ever notice, it's Bitcoin catching up to Ethereum. It's not Bitcoin passing. It's not Bitcoin innovating the NFT space. It's only Bitcoin catching up to what Ethereum can already do, has been able to do for so many years.
I have an interesting analogy, which is someone who just starts going to the gym. In the very first weeks, in the very first month of someone starting to weightlift, you're going to see very, very, very rapid results. All of a sudden, you're going to notice, damn, my bicep looks like that. I've never seen that. But then very quickly, what happens after a couple months of progress, you're going to start seeing a plateau, and progress is going to be very slow, very steady. And this is kind of what we're seeing right now with ordinals on Bitcoin. All the native technology that typically is just established on all the other chains, like simply marketplaces, L2 chains, smart contracts, like the basics that we take for granted on other chains, they're now being built on Bitcoin. And we're seeing so much adoption, so much innovation because Bitcoin is in that early, first month of gymming. It's exciting, it's fun. But let's see once all the established technology is there. Let's see once the L2s are there. Okay, great. Let's see once the transaction costs are down. What's next? Are you going to be able to continue competing against Ethereum when it comes to your ability to scale this, to bring this to the masses? Can you onboard the Web2 masses on Bitcoin? Yes or no? These are all questions that are still need to be answered. But I do want to preface this with something Michael Saylor once said, which is that him talking where as long as there are people who believe in Bitcoin, there are going to be people who believe in Bitcoin inscriptions. Michael Saylor, was saying that he would much rather have, for example, his death wish or his inheritance. I don't know how you call it, the inheritance contract. Who's going to be getting what in my family after X happens? He would much rather have that built on the most established, safest blockchain that is Bitcoin than it being on another blockchain that could potentially next week be shut down by the SEC because it is a security, or it could get regulated or could get in trouble. So although yes, there is that friction, the cost of launching on there, the time of like just the collection we were looking at before, the punks, you could see there were 31 transactions going through right now. These are probably going to take 30 to 40 minutes to get approved. As long as people believe in Bitcoin, I think there's going to be a use case for it. maybe your house contract. Do you really need that? You buy a new home, you want the lease, the mortgage lease to be on a blockchain. You're really minded being taking 30 minutes to get stamped on there, and you paying that extra $30 to $40 in transaction fee? Probably not. As long as you know you're gonna have the stability of being on the world's most established, safest blockchain. What are your thoughts on this?
For me, inscribing on Bitcoin is like inscribing on gold. You can do it. It's not, you're not meant to, right? It costs expensive. If you want to buy something significant like a wedding ring for your spouse, you probably, buy a gold wedding ring with, probably some diamonds. But, it's there's a difference in the mainstream consumer's mind, right? When you ask the mainstream consumer, are you willing to spend $50? Like, here's the same exact paper. Do you want to spend $50 on it, or do you want to spend half a dollar on it or 2 cents on it? What do you think the average consumer is going to say? No, I want the safer option that is better in the long term. And, oh, I am so wise and ever knowing. They don't care. They want to save money. That's what. That's why most projects, if you look back in history, have went on ETH, because you can scale on Ethereum. And that's why even we started seeing projects move out of ETH to Polygon and Solana, because you can even scale faster there. That is what the end consumer is always going to want. They're going to want speed, scalability, and affordability. They're not going to care about safety. How many times do you actually read the terms and agreements of a website before you sign on to it? No one actually cares about security in the sense you think, or someone might think they do.
Those are very good points, Kermit. So beyond this video today, what are some of the metrics people should keep an eye on in the next month, quarter, 2 quarters, next year, to understand where is the ordinals, if it is relevant for their project? So what are the 3 metrics you'd invite people to keep an eye on, and where can they do that? On which sites, which part of the vast internet?
Sure. I'd recommend to always keep an eye on cryptoslam.io. They have, very interesting data, especially in terms of volume. Always knowing what the top collections look like. That gives you an idea of, where are the top collections in right now? Are they new? Are they old? Are we seeing some new faces? If we're seeing new faces, where are they being built on? Right now, the answer is ordinals. However, again, we're seeing the volume drop down. I would also keep an eye on Dune Analytics, the ordinals marketplaces dashboards, keeping an eye on volume, seeing what it does, number of transactions, even number of participants. So how many people are onboarding the space. So we've seen a sharp rise in May, but again, that was only in May. The chart, this looks the same as this, right? In terms of incline. It was really May that was parabolic for ordinals rather. And those are mainly the 2 places. And then, of course, Twitter, to always know, what big projects are coming on ordinals. For example, Elena launching a collection. That is a very positive sign for the space, despite all the negative analytics.
That was very good, man. That was very good. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Hey, my pleasure.